Individualism, right? That means that we're supposed to be uniquely different. If we're so uniquely different, why do we buy millions and millions of 3-liter bottles of Pepsi Cola? Why do we buy millions of pairs of Timberland shoes? Where are all these individuals who are supposed to have such different tastes and choice? Why do we buy millions and millions of the same types of clothes, the same type of food, the same type of entertainment, the same type of music? What are we talking about? Who are these individuals who have such separate choices that they end up buying over and over again the same product, millions upon millions upon millions of the same product, saying they're doing their own thing, and I'm an individual expressing my own taste? You must be joking. You're no individuals. There's no such thing as individualism. It's a joke that the white man runs on you. You say these other people are individuals? Well, tell me this. Why is it that 180 million white individuals decide that they won't spend a nickel with you? If they are so free, and if they are so different, and if they are so unique, and if they do all their things, and if they, then why is it a good chunk of them don't spend money with black people? Where is this individual choice? Where is this individual choice when 7 or 8 million Asians will walk 10 miles around not to put a nickel in your hands, and yet they come and sell you everything they got? Where is this individualism, ladies and gentlemen? Where is this individualism in Detroit when Arabs can own the infrastructure of that city and Negroes spend money after money with them and they not spend a dime and they treat them like dogs? But we are individuals. We are doing our own thing. We are not a monolithic race. I believe in diversity. You're the only one that believes in it too.
One of the things that we must debunk immediately is the idea that a person can be completely individual and separated completely from society. In fact, individuality has no meaning other than in a society. If you are in the world completely alone, no one else existed, why would you even think about individuality? There's no meaning whatsoever. Why would you even think about identity, race, or anything else? These things come to have meaning and operate within a social context. The concept of personal and social identity takes on meaning relative to other people, relative to a social system. Identity, by its very nature, is a social concept. It is no way you're going to escape the social in your personality. One's identity begins before he or she is even born. It begins in the womb itself. The society begins to shape the personality from the very first moment of conception. However one's identity is defined and assigned, however such an identity is expressed, it has social ramifications and produces social effects. Because one acts one's identity out within a social system. I don't care how you define it. If you're living in a society, it has social effects and social influences. Individual definition and expression is achieved within the social structure. Self-identity is confirmed by repeated and relatively consistent social interactions. To have an identity means that you have some kind of boundaries around your mental and physical personality. Those boundaries have to be defined relative to those outside of those boundaries. Those boundaries are maintained by those structures and people outside. In fact, one does not achieve an identity in the fullest sense until that identity is confirmed by other people. You can say, I am the king, if you want to. You can say it all you want to, but until others defer to you and bow to your presence and follow your command, in reality, you're not. It takes the behavior and attitude and the relations of other people to confirm what you may even call an individual identity. They have to relate to you in some particular set of ways. The idea then that you can have an identity unconfirmed, unrelated to a social system is totally illogical. This man who says he is neither black nor white will still turn around and call himself a singer, which requires what? An audience. People to listen, people to buy records, people to respond to him as what? A singer. If he were in the middle of the forest, totally alone, what difference would it make if he sang or not? How could he define himself? The word singer, the word dancer, only has meaning within a social political context. It's just like the context people talk about of being independently wealthy. How are you going to be independently wealthy? These are my dollars. A dollar is nothing but a printed piece of paper. That is all it is in essence. The dollar is a social instrument, and its value must be accepted by other people. Therefore, it can never belong to you alone. It only has value because it is a social instrument. You never own it by yourself, for yourself, and to yourself. If you did, it would not be accepted as what? Money. But of course, the bourgeois society wants to create this so that it can make the poor and these other people it rips off think that they do not give meaning to wealth and riches. And that ultimately what we call wealth and what we call riches is a creation of the group, not of some person who lifts him or herself up by their bootstrap and who is a self-made person. A self-made person is self-made within a social context and is maintained in their wealth by a social context. And therefore, all of the money that they have ultimately is money that belongs to the group and is a group creation. But of course, we want to run a game on your head to take your money, use all of your money, use it against you, saying it's all mine and I'm independently wealthy. We never think about, and there's so many other concepts like private property, total thievery. You never own any property. You just rent it. You said you paid for it. You finished your mortgage. Stop paying your taxes. See how long you got it and watch the group take it right back from you. You don't own it. You just rent it. You see? But this is the game that's run on the mind of people. What makes an individual, what makes us individual is our unique ways of integrating and expressing and relating to community, to shared social knowledge, techniques, resources, and values. The material we individualize is in essence social material, made available by a social system, a set of social relations. In other words, we are individual in our individual ways of dealing with social things and relating to social things, not that we are uniquely individual. Then we would speak our own language. You want to know that you want to really see the ultimate individual? Look at the schizophrenic in full bloom. Has his own glossolalia, salad language, living in his own total reality, disembodied, doesn't know where his body ends or begins. He's all people and every people. An echo chamber, so everybody he meets, he echoes them. He can't distinguish himself from anything else there. Locked in his own world, locked away from reality. And therefore, he has to now be taken care of by others, because he becomes a danger to himself and sometimes others. As I said earlier, the social system is not out there, it is within each of us. The individual is a social creation. That's why individuals in different societies differ from other individuals in other societies, because they individually represent their social group. The individual helps to maintain the social situation.
Get caught up with housing as a central problem. See, or even with education as a central problem, or criminal justice as a central problem, or white racism as a central problem per se. We're going to see that those problems will never go away. They will always just change form and shape, and we'll have to fight them in new shapes and new forms over and over again, and we'll make the same mistakes again and again and again. The African man has been struggling with the European now for the last 2,000 to 5,000 years. And when you look at a Chancellor Williams book or other books, you will see, and that book of course is about what? Africa's making what? The same mistakes over and over and over again, right to the point of the Persian Gulf. A continuous line of mistakes, indicative of people then not having learned. Let's look then at imperialism, which I see as a root problem. When we talk about racism, remember, it takes a race to engage in it, doesn't it? Right? You know, most people kind of talk about racism in a disembodied form. You know, in terms of what? An attitude. Now that's one abstraction that works against us, doesn't it? Yeah. But racism has to be practiced by a race of people. And it's important that we keep that in mind. Why are whites racist? Because they have the power to be racist. Period. Now you can go into all kinds of psychological, psychobabble you want to behind all of that. But that's the bottom line of it. They have the power to be. And when you get through explaining all of their psyche to them, you know, and going through all of their changes and trying to stroke them with guilt, and bring them into confrontation with their constitution so they can live out their creed. When you get through with all of that, and whining and complaining about how he mistreated you and hurt you and made you all kinds of, you know, whatever you complaining about, in the end he'll just say, yes, you're right. So what are you going to do about it? You find yourself right back in the same shape. What are you going to do about it? Yes, I kicked you and colonialized you. Yes, I enslaved you. Yeah, I'm sending your boys to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I'm going to make them fight and shoot and do all the things. Yeah, I'm going to make them kill each other out in the street. What are you going to do about it? We want to change your attitude. You could change my attitude. You might change it for a minute, but when I feel like it, I'm just going to flip right back into it. What are you going to do about it? But see, it's easier for us to pretend that it's the attitude and, you know, and get caught up in all of that analysis because we don't want to confront the reality of power. And we don't want to confront the reality that all of these problems that we complain about, homelessness, poor education, all of this, comes out of one reality.
And that is the white man's ability to impose these problems upon us. And the solution being what? What is it? What is the solution? Abstract now, tell me.
Elimination.
To eliminate what? That's one possibility. And it may be one that's necessary. It may be one that's necessary. But most of all, if racism flows from the power to be racist, then what must we eliminate? That power. We must neutralize the power. That is the bottom of all the rest of the crap. We would not be in the condition we were in if the white man didn't have the power to what? Put us there. We wouldn't be hollering about injustice, he'd be hollering about it. And all the other stuff. If he didn't have the power to be unjust. And yet there seems to be a refusal on most of our parts to confront the reality of that situation. And to recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that if you are not about breaking the arms of the white man's power, you're just kidding yourself, and you're going to suffer, and you're going to get the suffering that you deserve. And I can tell, I can feel even this little tension right here. Every time I talk about power, I get this little silence. You see, because somehow our old biblical training and all of this other nonsense that we've been taught makes us think that power is a dirty word, but it's the only thing to keep you alive. Power is given to man as a survival tool. It is not sinful in and of itself. One cannot protect himself or feed himself or plow the earth or do anything else without what? Power. And without the ability to be aggressive. And somehow black folks sitting in these churches have been made to think then that it is wrong to talk about power and to cultivate power in a deliberate and conscious way. And imperialism involves then the power of one distinct group over another group, in essence to control the resources of that group, to control the political structure and behavior of that group, to control the authority of that group. White supremacy is just that. The supremacy of whites over blacks, and maintaining that supremacy through power, and using that power to the advantage of white people. George Fredrickson, in his book White Supremacy, defines it as referring to the attitudes, ideologies, and policies associated with the rise of blatant forms of white or European dominance over non-white populations. Another interesting book I think we should read in this context is one that's called Portraits of Racism by David T. Well, and I like it because it's very straightforward and doesn't get into a lot of psychological mumbo-jumbo. According to David T. Wellman, that's the name, racism can be seen to systematically provide economic, political, psychological, and social advantages for whites at the expense of blacks and other people of color. Keep that in mind. I want you to keep that in mind. Because we kind of forget. We talk about racism and slips off our tongue so easily, you see. But you have to remember, racism is not merely an attitude. It is a system. And the point of that system is to give material and non-material advantages to the race that is empowered to practice it. We could talk about them as being ice people, as against the sun people, and that explanation is valid. I have no problems with it. We can talk about them in terms of their protecting their more recessive genes. against our more dominant genes. We can even get into a little psychoanalysis and deal with the myth of length of penises and penis envy and all the other things, and black balls and white balls and brown balls and black holes and white balls rolling into black holes and things of this nature. And all that's fine. That's a lot of fun. But no matter how you explain why or how the European got to the point of victimizing us, I think the essential issue is that the European victimizes us because he can, because he has the power to do so. And we are victimized because we haven't developed the power to prevent his doing so. So in a sense, no matter how we explain why he does what he does, at the end point, he does what he does because he can. And consequently then, I infer from this that we can end his victimization of us when we end his power to do so. And consequently, I want to bring into the domain of discussion in this community the subject matter of power. I want us, in addition to studying black history and culture, to study power, its accumulation, its use, and application. We should talk about it every day and everywhere. We should read about it, and we should develop the means of using it. We should come to understand the nature of how white power is organized. In the end, power does not flow from the genes of white folk. Does that not flow from their ice age? It flows from the nature of their organization and the way they have chosen to relate one to the others. And it flows from their intentionality as a people and their appropriate organization of themselves to realize their intentionality, one of which is, of course, the domination of African people. And that means then that we as African people must study the rules of organization. We must study the means of relating one to each other in such a way that we multiply our power. And we must study our enemy's organization such that we can probe that organization